So here we go, just making a recording about a MSN radio station that did an interview with somebody who they've labelled as a sovereign citizen. Obviously, it's a hot topic now. So I'm going to go break down how this hatchet job was done. It was very subtly done, yet it was impregnating ideas and beliefs while they were speaking. So I'm just going to go through the intro first and show you piece by piece how they do it. Whether it's deliberate or that's just what they've been taught, how they go about things without them really understanding what they're doing and what they're impregnating, that I can't prove. Yet it still doesn't change the outcome, right? So the most important thing is what the actual deed is and what the effect is in reality. So that's why we need to look at this. So we're going to play it and I'll just stop it every so often and I'll explain what they're doing.
They're growing in numbers, and I'm talking about people that the media, I guess, are referring to them as sovereign citizens. They like to call themselves free thinkers, but you'll see.
So already, right? So they're coming in with that sort of thinking that now this particular radio station, they're above the media that they're already a part of, right? They're somehow separate. So they're calling it like there's some separate entity, that's, they're sort of independent. That's what they're shaping, right? So they're already putting ideas in your head that this is like a very neutral ground you're in, right? There's no opinions being thrown here. That's what they're setting up. They're laying that up. While at the same time, actually using definitions to define people, right? As soon as you call someone a name, you have defined them. Whether it's sovereign citizen or whether it's free thinker, it's irrelevant, right? You are seeking to define a living sentient being that is unlimited. And when you make a definition of someone, of a living thing, you have now said that you are the final arbiter of what that is, right? You have granted yourself that authority, that you know what it is, right? And as soon as you do that, you stop being curious about it, right? You believe that you know everything you need to know. That's what definitions are for. They're supposed to be there for, so you believe you know everything that's required and there's no further investigation. So right then and there is a massive contradiction by the sheer fact that she used the title and gave that individual a title. It's not actually just asking to speak to them as an individual who might have some concerns. No, they are already labelled, right? They're typecast. As soon as you get that idea in your head, the very next thing that does, it actually triggers some kind of resistance if that title is in opposition to your beliefs. So they've already set that up beautifully, right? So that's in the first, I don't know, what is that, 9 seconds? They've already started setting it up. So let's listen on.
Because there was quite a hectic arrest, and a police officer had to break a window of someone saying the law.
So there she goes. She goes, there was a hectic arrest and a police officer had to break a window. Like he was forced to do it. Like he didn't have a choice, right? You could see there was all these people surrounding him saying, you better do it or your life's in danger. That's what we were able to see. That's what the word has mean. It means had means that you did not have a choice. Now he had a choice and he chose to rip that window out, right? That's what you can see with your own eyes, right? And they're calling that a hectic arrest. Yes, because there was violence perpetrated on the property owners of that vehicle. But they don't frame it like that, right? They make it like the instigators of the violence was the one sitting in the car, not doing anything, or at best they were being argumentative, right? That's the most that ever happened from that end. But does that justify actually scaring the bejeebs out of people and ripping their property to bits, right? So who actually was the perpetrator of the violence? There's no investigation launched into that, right? That's just totally overlooked. So we really got to start looking at how they lay this out, guys, right? And so if you're someone who's busy every day, just trying to get through your hectic day, are you really going to start listening to what you're being told, with like precision to the point of where it's like a forensic investigation? Are you really going to start picking it apart like what I'm doing? No, you're going to want all this information just outsourced and someone doing it for you. That's the whole reason why we're laboring like monkeys, right? So we actually get broken so deeply, we don't want to do anything else for ourselves. We want it handed to us. That's the whole point of this whole work structure, right? That's you hear it. How many people are really enlivened by going to work every day? Hardly anyone ever says that, right? So it's a soul stripping activity to go to work every day, doing something that you hate. And you're going to be filled with that much bitterness and resentment, that anything that triggers that kind of bitterness and resentment inside you, you're just going to leap at it. And this is how cleverly this is done, guys, right? So if you don't understand how psychology works, you're just going to get sucked in and believe everything you're being told. And so this is just a little bit of an instruction just so you guys can see how they actually do it.
Law doesn't apply to me, but there seems like there's a lot of people.
So the words, the law doesn't apply to me, was never said by those people in the car, right? All they did is challenged on jurisdiction. That's not them saying the law doesn't apply to them, right? So they're here putting more ideas into your mind, right? And that's how it goes. They sit there saying they're impartial while they're telling you what to think. Now you think about that, that's gaslighting 101. It's right there in your face if you're there willing to see it.
Are they growing in these numbers? And the thing is, it's very easy to go, let's never hear them. Do you know what I mean? Let's silence them. We don't agree with them. It's conspiracy theories. But my concern is if...
All right, so listen to what she did. She goes into the high moral ground, right? That everyone else is dismissing them, but I'm not like that. I'm caring. I want to hear what they've got to say. It's really important that we get all this information out and everyone makes an informed decision for themselves, and I won't influence them in any way, shape or form with how I structure my language. I won't do that. That's not what I do. I'm just very curious to find out, to lead with curiosity. The funny thing about curiosity is that it actually requires you to ask more questions, but they don't do that. Once they ask one or two, they're actually corralling the listener into the pen, right? Into a psychological pen. Right? That's what they're doing. They're not asking more and more questions to find out. What they're doing is what's called listening to reply. And listening to reply is when you want to actually superimpose your beliefs very subtly over what the other one is saying. So you're not actually interested in really understanding what the heart of the matter is. You're just using that as a way to get what they're saying to be corralled into a place where the listener is going to be in doubt. Now, with the majority of the people who would listen to this radio station, right, they would already have their own opinions of how they've already been programmed to believe what a sovereign citizen is. So they don't have to do very much, right? These media, all they have to do is implement the seed of doubt. And that's the way they frame their language, is to make sure that that seed of doubt is there. And that's all they require, because these people have already made their minds up and all they're doing is just confirming their biases. And she talks about confirmation bias when it's projected at the one she's interviewing. So she's projecting that outwards, but she never claims it herself, right? So everything anyone ever projects outwards is a reflection of what they're doing and what's going on in the inner world.
You don't listen to people. I think that's what causes a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm. And we don't. When we speak to Dave is his name, we're not speaking to him because we agree with his views. What we're wanting to do is understand why these people feel the way they feel.
So here we go. Now he's saying we're not speaking to as we agree, right? They're setting that up, right? We want to understand why they feel. They're not saying, because when you say, when you frame it that way, how someone feels, that's like a very personal, subjective experience. So that's what they're saying is, how do you as someone get into this place where you're just not in agreement, or you're in opposition to all of us who are right? That's what they're really saying, right? Because they're saying how you feel, not how, what was the investigation you launched and how did you put these pieces together? They're not saying that, right? And so this is how it's cleverly done. Right? They're making it like they're altruistic, but really they're narrowing everything down into that mental cage.
Feel that way, and I mean, you can see the things that they're upset about. Some of them are valid things. One of their main things is that they're upset with government, and you can understand why people feel that way. Yeah. But some.
So do you see what happened? He's now showing that he's all caring, compassionate. Yeah, look, I understand that people are going to have grievances. That's okay. That's perfectly normal. We all have that. But then what does he say? He says the word but. And anytime you say the word but, what that really means is it means that anything you was said prior to that word, right, it's totally dismissed. It means nothing. And the only reason he said that was to set himself up as a good guy, someone who cares. That's what he was really laying down here. And then when he goes with the but, then he's shaping you to believe what it is he's saying next is the truth, right? So let's listen to what happens after but.
Sometimes their reasoning and their reaction...
Well, it could be dangerous,
There you go, right there. You see how they set it up? So now they've gone for, oh, yes, we're the caring, compassionate ones. We really want to understand, but this is what you really need to understand, that these people are dangerous, right? So they're programming you right then and there. They're leading you into that pen. And they're going to walk away thinking, no, what's the problem? We gave people a voice. They've got to say what they needed to.
There is no situation, I believe, where threats of violence.
Oh, that's interesting, because did they mention that the actual police not only made threats, right? Those policy enforcement agents that work for a foreign corporation, they not only made threats, they actually carried them out, actually ripped out the window. So did she actually put that under the microscope and go, well, hang on a second, if I actually don't like violence and I don't think there's a situation that warrants it, why aren't I talking about the police, right? Because there's no threat of harm to them. No one actually threatened them. There was no one in any kind of imminent danger. So what was the emergency where that window needed to be ripped out, right? This was someone imposing their will on someone else and getting their way. But they never look at that, right? They always leave out the parts that they agree with, the narrative they're pushing. That never gets scrutinized. It's only the ones they want you to believe are the problem. They always get the scrutiny, but not the other side, right? So they create this invisible boundary that you cannot cross into. It's all done mentally with words. So I'm going to have to leave that there because I'm running out of time and I want to keep this under 10 minutes and I'll come back and do more with the next one.
Is appropriate.
Whoops, that wasn't meant to happen.